Hello there, this is Sandy again from Talk of Thailand, and this is the next in my series about my retirement here to Thailand and the seeking to get my wife seeking to get some sort of job or business that would give her her own income to a sort, making her more independent from me. And this is following the failure of the taxi business because of the sale of Uber to Grab. So this is an interesting exercise with the next one. So if you're interested, please keep watching, and we look forward to seeing you there. Bye. Okay, the second business that we went into. Now, my wife's sister-in-law lives down in Pattaya, and she runs a small Thai shop in a shack, actually, an assembled shack made of wood and tin, and it's a very, very basic Thai shop. She's got a couple of fridges there, and she sells all the sorts of things that Thai people need to buy, and she's surrounded by a Thai neighbourhood where they've got an apartment block right opposite her and a lot of Thai houses around about. So she sells things like washing powder, noodles, soups, blah blah, all sorts of bric-a-brac that the normal Thai people need during the normal course of the working day. And in addition, she does cooking as well. She cooks a big pot of rice every day and makes a big pot of rice, and people come and buy rice, so they come and ask her to cook something for them. And she ups the income from her little prefabricated shop that way. And she seems to do okay, actually, or so I thought. Anyway, she's always people coming in and buying this and buying that. Cigarettes, they don't buy by the packet, they come in and buy by ones, twos, threes, fours and fives. That sort of business is really the sort of thing I remember seeing in my youth when the vans used to come round, and my mother, who smoked, she'd go out and buy 2 cigarettes off the van that came round that was selling vegetables and all the rest of it. All that's long days in the past in the UK, but it's a similar type of thing here. And the second business arose from there, actually, because very close to my wife's sister-in-law's shop, there's another lady who worked there, and she worked for a Thai property development company. And she was friendly with my wife and the wife's family. And one day she came and she said to my wife, she said, you know, very close to where you live in Pattaya, we're just opening a brand new, newly constructed set of shops above, with accommodation above, separate accommodation for rental with its own entry, etc. She said it should be a popular area, and she said it's very well situated as well. She said it's only a few minutes from where you live, and the big positive about it was that they built it, and when they built it, they hadn't foreseen the turn down in the Thai economy, and this is actually long before, a couple of years before COVID appeared on the scene. So, but the Thai economy was definitely down, and where they had planned to rent these shop units out at 7,500 bahts, which is about, say, £200 a month, they dropped that to 4,500 bahts, which is just over £100 a month, and the shops were quite well fitted out. So, hearing about that, the next day my wife phoned the company up and asked if she could have a viewing of one of these units after we'd had a look round, and yes, they were very well situated, actually, on a nice sort of crossroads section with lots of accommodation around. And the other big bonus for us was that it was very close to my daughter's kindergarten school, only 2 minutes away from the kindergarten school, so it would work out absolutely ideal. And my wife being her own boss again, she could open and close the shop to go and get my daughter, etc., or whatever. And she she liked the proposition of having the shop there, and it certainly looked to me, not knowing everything, but the location looked good. And when we discussed the plan, the price was certainly okay. Just over £100 a month, 4,500 bahts, and it all seemed to go quite well and proved quite positive. So, and when we got the viewing inside, it was actually quite a large area inside. It was like it was one big room actually that went from front to back, and there was its own toilet facility, shower facility in there. And indeed, some of the other people that eventually rented them, they actually worked and lived in these units. So we managed. There was actually two different sizes there. There was a couple of large ones, and there's about six, something like six slightly smaller ones. And the ideal one that I thought would be ideal had already been booked by someone else, but all the rest were free. So we actually got one of the larger units. It's not a lot larger, but a few square meters larger, and we were very happy with that actually. So we agreed to take that, and it was going to take about 2 months to finish off, because the electric hadn't been connected up, etc., and that all had to be completed and inspected and checked and tested by whoever in the government before they could start renting them. And they reckoned about 2 months, when it was 2 months actually. But that was good, because that gave us time then to look around how she wanted to furnish it out, what we needed to furnish it out. She was also going to set up a shop much bigger than her sister-in-law's actually, with some tables inside for people to come in and sit down and eat. And she was going to, the initial idea was that she was going to make a chicken and rice speciality here in Thailand. I forget the name of it now, but it's very popular. It's like a boiled chicken, just served with rice and some soup from the chicken, and it is very, very popular actually here in town. I'm just trying to think of the name of this, but it'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, so we knew what we needed to buy. We had to buy a lot of shop fittings to fit the shop out, so it could take all the bits and pieces that Thai people needed to buy. We needed to buy some cooking equipment, decent sized cooking equipment, pots, cutlery, dishes, blah blah blah, etc. Tables and chairs. We wanted to put a TV in there. We wanted to put Wi-Fi in there. Everything to make this an attractive proposition to people to use it, because there was a lot of flats up above as well, and that was a big thing, because people living above could come down to eat, and that was the idea. And the streets round about, which were all little Thai houses, then the facility was available for them as well. It sounded and looked perfect actually. So during the 2 months prior to moving in, we got all the stuff together. We hunted around, and we found one guy from UK actually who'd set up a shop come restaurant somewhere on the outskirts of Patti that had failed badly, and he was now going back to the UK with his Thai girlfriend, and he was trying to sell off a lot of his shop equipment that he had bought to get his money back. So we done some time negotiating with him. In actual fact, I think I bought most of his, if not all, I bought most of his shop equipment. It was still expensive, still a lot of money. We spent maybe, I think, probably about £600 with him, because it was all good stuff. It was all good stuff. And I also bought a couple of big bottle fridges as well to put in the shop. And I bought a small freezer unit as well, which came from a separate place. I bought that to put in the shop, so we could have frozen stuff in there, ready to cook, etc. So we weren't always reliant on going to the market. That was a little bit naive actually, because the market was only 5 minutes away maximum, and we could have got everything fresh every day. But this was the idea of setting it up, and you wanted it to be kind of perfect to start with, and good. we got these bottle fridges in, and we stocked them up with beer, all the sorts of things, juices, milk, different flavoured milks, all the sorts of things that you see in the fridges here in Thailand. Red Bull, and other equivalents to Red Bull. And that all went well, and I really didn't get too much involved in this. I thought, well, I'll leave this to my wife to take care of it, because it looks pretty good, and I think she'll enjoy doing it. And I stayed at home, and I carried on with my book, etc. And eventually the shop opened, and it was fully stocked out. It cost quite a bit of money to stock it all out as well. Although we did manage to buy a lot of stuff from this expat that sold up his shop as well. So we bought a load of stuff actually that I've still got that we wouldn't sell in 1,000 years. But he had bought and he wanted to get rid of. So a lot of it was just thrown in with what we bought, and it's still here actually. But anyway, I digress from the story. So we got it all set up, and the date came, and they connected the electric up, they checked it all up, my wife signed the final papers, etc. We'd already put a deposit down, which was necessary, 1 month's deposit and 1 month's rent in advance, and off we went. And the first 2 or 3 weeks was okay. There was a few people coming in to eat, not too many, but it worked out, and we thought, well, once people get to know it more, it'll get busier, and it did a little bit. And then we got approached by Coca-Cola actually, who said, well, would you like to have some Coke fridges in there? You know, a big Coca-Cola fridge in there. We said, yeah, well, that sounds a good idea. It's good advertising. They were going to give us signs for outside the shop, etc. And that sounds a good idea as well, make it more shop-like. And they provided the fridge, but on the provision, of course, that we totally initially stocked it up full of all their different products, which that sounds fair to me. But then we're running along, and there isn't a lot of money coming in actually. You know, we thought, right, the first month we made a loss, and then the second month we made a loss, and then I sat down with my wife and we said, okay, let's go through how we're doing here and work out what's good and what's bad. And let's start with the drinks actually. That was the big problem. Beers were okay, but all these soft drinks that we had, etc. Now it transpired that, like for instance, the Coca-Cola, we had to buy a minimum of, well, we had to fill that fridge for a start, but we also used to buy obviously everything by the cases, so you had to put deposits on the plastic cases if they came in plastic cases. And just one example of a medium-sized bottle of Coke or Sprite or whatever, my wife was paying 8 bahts a bottle for this mineral. Now we were having to buy it in quantity, obviously, to put in the fridge, and then we were keeping it in the fridge, and we were keeping the fridges running, and obviously. And then the going price for these bottles was 12 bahts, which meant the difference between purchase and sale was 4 bahts. And then that 4 bahts you got to take in all the refrigeration, electricity, blah, blah, blah. And the outlay that you've laid out for all this stuff. And it only then started to hit me, you know, that just to cover this 4,500 bahts every month, we'd have to sell an enormous amount of Coke or Sprite or minerals anyway, just to get anywhere near it with that. Obviously we had food as well, so trying to break the cost to get across the other products that were in the shop and the cooking. The electric bills were coming in, and of course we had gas bills for the cookers as well. We were buying LPG gas for the cookers and bottles, and at the end of about 4 months, I'd say, maybe 5 months, we sat down and we said, well look, This wasn't even looking like wiping its face anywhere at all. Now, next door we had another Thai lady that was married to was with a German gentleman, and she was doing purely cooking in there, and we noticed that she wasn't getting a lot of business either, and she was doing more of a variation in cooking than my wife was. Now that was the other idea that we thought about, is changing the menu, which my wife did. She went out and we started changing to other Thai dishes as well, to see if that would be more attractive, and then providing some alternatives to just one dish. And nothing really was lifting it at all. And in the end I said to the wife, I said, look, I said, this is just costing us money every month. And she knew it as well. She didn't want to talk about it too much. It was depressing her. She wasn't making any income from it as she'd hoped to, and everything was going out and money out, and we were losing on the whole thing. So after about 6 months, we just, okay, let's pull the plug on all this and call it a day. We didn't even work the month's notice to use up our deposit. We just said finish it, because the electricity bill and all the ancillaries, etc., we were losing anyway, so might as well, we would have spent more than the deposit just to keep it going for another month. So that was it. So we kind of pulled the plug on that, and it only came really to my mind then when we had discussed it all. You know, when you're selling cigarettes by 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, small coppers, because this is what people can afford to buy, and you're working to your home market. But you're selling small packets of washing powder for 5 bahts that you're buying for 4 bahts. So you're making 1, 2 bahts here and there. You're not even covering the cost of going and getting this stuff, etc. And you need to have a lot more sales to we'd have needed a lot more sales just to make this thing even start to look like working, and I knew it was never going to happen. On the other side of us, there was another lady open, and she was doing cooking as well, similar to the lady on this side, the other side of us. So there was 3 cook shops there. There was somebody selling bottled water in another one, and somebody put some laundry machines in another, and that was basically it. There was still a couple of empty even when we left after 6 months. So we left. We shut the shop down, returned the keys, returned the fridge back to Coca-Cola, brought what we could back here. In fact, we brought everything back here. My house is still jam-packed right round the various rooms with all the stuff from the shop. We should maybe try and sell that on, but the current market with the pandemics and all the rest of it, lots of shops are closing down, lots of businesses are hitting the wall, so there's a glut of shop fittings on the market. So I think really my wife's idea, although nothing's ever been discussed directly about it, is maybe to hang on to this stuff, and maybe one day it will come in useful for some other project. It might do. So we can live with it here. It's not really getting in our way. It's just filled the house out, and that's it really. That's just the story. So that's the second business, and it was a bit of a learning curve for me in the way that Thai shops, etc. work. Her sister-in-law's shop, hey, they live there anyway. She lives there, and she lives with her grown-up son and his son's wife and their son. So everybody's contributing to the very small rent of this shack that they live in, which is a shack. It's an absolute shack. I've got a little bit of video of it, and I'll put it on here. It is an absolute shack, and there is no real expense to it. She keeps the electricity down to the minimum. She's got 2 second-hand fridges in there, not big fridges, not like anything like we had, and so our actual costs are not too bad. she does other things as well. She sells lottery tickets, and she works with the underground lottery, where you just go in and instead of buying lottery tickets from the government, you can give them what numbers you want, and you kind of bet on these numbers coming up, and if you win, you can make a decent return. But she obviously gets a little commission from whoever takes this on. She's only an agent for them. She's tried one or two other agencies as well, and she seems to get along okay with it. Actually, they survive on what they've got, and that's the secret. They survive, and they don't make money. They're not ever in any sense of the word going to get rich through their business, or even have money in the bank, actually, because it's in and out, and just small takings away, because they're cooking food for the people round about. They eat very cheaply as well, because their own food comes into it. But they're nice people, they're friends of ours, and I enjoy going down and sitting having a beer with them, and it's old Thai. It's old Thai now, and that's the way we live. So that's my story for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Worth thinking about. Please, if you like it, subscribe and give me the thumbs up, ring the bell, do all these things that they ask you to do. And for now, I'll say goodbye and thank you for watching. Bye.